Welcome to the Libertarian Counterpoint. I'm Richard Fields. On the program today we have Erik Smitt, spokesman for Don't Double the Tax, No on Measure B. Debra, Desrosiers, vice chairman on Don't Double the Tax, No on Measure B, and retired financial planner Robert Page. Welcome to the show. Measure B would double the Sacramento County transportation sales tax. And the question I have is, what more in the way of transportation would it bring? Would it mean that the roads would get twice as good? Would it mean that you'd have twice as many miles of light rail? What actually is the doubling of the tax going to accomplish that the individual commuter would be able to benefit from?
I'll let Debra start on that.
Okay. I've compared Measure A, the current Measure A, with the Measure B. And 7 of the items in the new Measure A that's running right now are repeated in the Measure B ordinance that they're trying to pass on this ballot.
So in other words, there are things that Measure A was supposed to accomplish but didn't?
They need more money. One of the...
but they were supposed to have enough money originally.
Well, that's what we were told.
They were promised as that they would be funded
that
by
was
Measure
the promise.
A.
That was what we were told.
Oh, but never mind, we need more.
You know the project called the Southeast Connector, the Capital Southeast Connector that runs from Folsom down Grant Line through down to Highway 99.
Okay.
That in Measure B is going to receive $125 million according to their transportation expenditure plan. That is also an item that is in Measure A. We've been working with some of the people that live on Grant Line that properties are going to be taken away from them because they're going to put in a 2-lane highway basically with a median, and so they're going to be taking away property on both sides of the roads by
eminent domain? Probably
by eminent domain or by sale, possibly. But it's really a tough situation because they don't have enough money in Measure A to finance installing that capital connector, the Southeast Capital Connector. And in my calculations, I'm not going to use any figures, but I don't even think there's going to be enough money in Measure B with Measure A to fund that connector. I think there's a Measure C.
The connector you're talking about, is that highway or light rail?
No, it's a highway. It's going to be 2 lanes each direction down Grant Line.
Okay.
And
in Elk Grove?
Yeah, it's going to go to Highway 99 from El Dorado Hills is actually where it starts.
Oh, okay. So going from El Dorado Hills to Elk Grove and beyond?
It's just over 33 miles.
Where the Grant Line Road runs right now?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Who drives on that road?
People trying to cut through, instead of going down Highway 50 to Highway 99, they'll sometimes cut down Grant Line. Shortcut,
and this is a way of making that shortcut a little bit faster.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to think. That's not going to downtown Sacramento. It's not going to the core. What's the source of traffic for that particular route? Don't know.
I don't know.
But there is traffic there.
There is traffic.
Okay.
I travel it. Okay. I don't think it's horrendous.
Well, one of the things that you guys have done is that you have filed a grand jury complaint against the city of Sacramento and the Sacramento Transportation Authority for spending at least $150,000 of taxpayer money promoting Measure B. Now, that's the agency that will benefit from the measure spending taxpayer money to promote the measure. Is that correct?
That is correct. So I have here our grand jury filing. I always worry about the trees to deal with this. But it's a very comprehensive document, and you can find this document on our website, don'tdoublethetax.org.
With no trees killed at all?
No trees killed
at all. But a lot of electrons wasted.
Little electrons wasted on your screen.
Yeah.
And it's scintillating reading in the beginning, in the charges. We have the legal backup from the Stinson versus Matt case from 1977, and it revolves around the issue: can government support a measure that the people are to decide? the government's fairly powerful these days. They have more money than I do. And so is it fair, is it part of our system of government to have the government put their thumb on the scale and change the balance in one direction or another? The 76 case was decided against that being done, and it set down guidelines. And those guidelines are that the government can educate, because we have to know what Measure B is, but they cannot promote and they cannot ask you to vote for Measure B. Well, we have a series of documents that are part of this report, and if you read them, like my wife did, she got this flyer in the mail. Pretty, glossy, high quality. It wasn't part of the complaint because it came in while we were filing the complaint. It cost over 58,000 tax dollars to produce this and distribute this to the households in the city of Sacramento. And she told me when I came home for dinner that she had gotten a yes on Measure B pamphlet in the mail. And I jumped up because I wanted to see it. And I looked at it, and it came from the city of Sacramento. And actually, it does not say yes on B, but it says everything else. And so I would challenge anybody to look at that $58,000, to look at this plan from Sacramento County, educating people on Measure B, that it does not say and promote Measure B. Here's from the Sacramento Transportation Authority, this and many other documents that they've produced for the last 3 months. And in here, we reference their internal memorandums about their promotion of Measure B and finding people to support it. So we feel that they've gone over the line, and that's why the campaign committee, Don't Double the Tax, No on Measure B, filed with the Sacramento County grand jury.
Okay. How long is the grand jury? I mean, we're looking at the election coming up in a couple of weeks. How long does the grand jury have to deal with that? Will it have any effect on the actual ballot measure?
Well, unfortunately, we don't control the grand jury or their agenda. So they get to choose whether or not to engage on this, and they get to choose to address it in their own time frame. So time is short for the election. Time is longer for the grand jury. They're not known to be speedy. They're known to be thorough and very deliberative. And so I have no idea whether or not this will come in time to impact this election.
Well, this is already on the ballot. The ballot has already been printed. Should Measure B pass, would the grand jury finding have any relevance then to go through and overthrow a ballot measure then?
The grand jury, to my understanding, is not able to overthrow a ballot measure.
Then why would they bother wasting their time? Because they're not going to get it done in 2 weeks.
Well, they're not going to get it done, but I have found them to be wonderfully good-hearted people who are interested in how our democracy works. Their scope of business is government entities in the county of Sacramento. And they have done an excellent job on issues in the past. So we are going this route. We're a fairly poor campaign, and we could not afford to go to court and have it dealt with there.
Okay, so let's say that the grand jury comes back with a report saying, slap on the wrist of the county, the city, and the transportation authority. But the measure's already passed. What happens at that point?
I'm presuming the measure will have passed.
Okay.
Unless they find something egregious and There are funding available to take this up through the court system. Really, the only way you stop government is in court. That's been my experience.
Well, the law in government is supposed to be the shield to protect us. It's more like the sword at this point of taking.
Yes.
Okay, so what's your best case scenario of what the grand jury complaint will be able to do in relationship to your campaign?
Well, the best case scenario is for them to come out with a report before the election and call foul that this is an abuse of the democratic process by our government. It's a coordinated, concerted, active abuse of our democratic process. If you read all of the documents in here, and I think that the voters will listen to.
So you're looking for a publicity benefit between now and the election?
Certainly a communication. The Yes on B people not only have the government spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in support of B, they have their own campaign committee funded by politicians, developers, engineering outfits, Siemens, who would like to make more cars for RT, and those groups of people are looking for a direct payback.
Okay, let's talk about the funding for Yes on Measure B. You mentioned Siemens. Can you mention any other people that or organizations that are directly involved in making this thing happen?
Teichert. They're a very large constructor of roads
Sure.
and transportation. I have a list here that I'm going to have to put on my glasses for this. Granite Construction, $25,000. They've donated more than our whole campaign chest so far. Angelo Tokopoulos, $27,500, a prominent developer in the area. David Taylor, $10,000. Mark Friedman, $10,000. Engineering firms, Gillig, which I'm not familiar with, $25,000.
They build buses.
They
build buses.
Okay. Unions. The Ironworkers Union, I would presume they want to build that bridge across the American River. That's part of Measure B, $50,000.
Well, outside of the people who will make money from this project commencing, is there any estimation of whether or not once it is completed, whether or not ridership would merit anywhere close to the cost? Is there a chance of breaking even off of this?
Certainly the projects envisioned in Measure B are failures. There's no other way to state it. And I'm looking at the two, the poster child for failure is the circulator rail system known as the streetcar in downtown Sacramento. It's 3 miles long.
This is something that's being proposed?
It's being proposed. It's part of Measure B. It's a little hidden.
Wasn't that already voted on by the populace or by the city of Sacramento?
It was.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
The people said
And
no.
what did the people say?
They said no.
Okay. Let's lay it out on the line. What exactly was the circulator, or is it?
So the circulator,
it's rail from where to where?
from West Sacramento, across the Golden Bridge, through downtown, and some environs beyond, towards 50 freeway.
Okay, so basically from Midtown to Old Sac and across the river, what, on the Tower Bridge?
Yes.
Is there room on the Tower Bridge for another?
Well, it's certainly going to cramp traffic and bicycles, which other people would like to
Well,
have
then
on
people
the Tower
will ride
Bridge.
the RT.
Well, the unfortunate part is the speed by which it will travel from West Sacramento through to the end is no faster than anyone at this table can walk.
Okay, so you're talking about a streetcar that goes at pedestrian speed from Midtown to that pyramid building in West Sacramento,
Yes.
basically, and it doesn't go any faster than you can walk that distance.
That's correct.
What's the market for something like that? People going out for lunch or what?
So people have told me that it would be cool. You know, it's $200 million of cool.
Of coolness.
and we'd have a cool streetcar. Not only would it not provide transportation.
It'll slow down the transportation that's there.
You're so intuitive.
It,
How did you know that?
it would run in traffic too, in between cars. It doesn't even have its own designated lane the way they have it designed.
Okay,
So a
what
car
street?
breaks down, somebody gets a flat tire, and the streetcar system stops until they get the car towed out of the way. So here's where we talk about 19th century technology. You know, back when they towed a streetcar with a horse, the horse walked about as fast as most people walked, but given that the streets were muddy and such, and the sidewalks were uncertain, perhaps it served something in the 1800s. But all the streetcars have been pulled off of the roadways in America since then because they make no sense. Why is this project going forward? Because our federal government, in its infinite wisdom, allocated matching funds for it. That's the only reason this goes forward.
Matching funds mean they would pay what, 50%?
50%.
So the federal government would pay 50% for something that should never be built in the first place.
That's
and so
correct.
therefore we're going to spend the other 50% to get something that is going to do nothing but snarl traffic and make it more difficult to get from point A to point B.
That's correct.
Right. Other Congress people join with our Congress people to build this so that our Congress people can join with the other Congress people to build something equally as useless in their communities.
Yes.
No accountability.
So how did it get from it was a ballot failure?
Correct.
In referendum failure in the city of Sacramento? How did it get from failure at the ballot box to in Measure B proposals? What's the roadmap there?
So the people who wrote Measure B are all of the politicians in the area. They are some of the people who think it's cool. They are not transportation experts. They like this idea.
You want to know something interesting about Measure A is that the capital projects, which this would be probably a capital project because it's matching funds, in whoa, I just lost my thought. I just lost my thought. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You asked why it's on the list.
I know.
Is the
Okay, I got-
horrendous problem with Measure B. It was created by politicians rather than transportation experts.
Okay, there is in Measure A a group called Professional Advisory Group that is constructed from the public utility department of each jurisdiction, and they meet and they decide which capital projects go forward. They meet in closed doors. You cannot attend their meeting. They decide what the capital projects are for the area. So we, as taxpayers paying for this, have zero input on what the capital projects.
Is that even legal?
They say it is. Sacramento Transportation
I
Authority.
don't think they're subject to the Brown Act.
Why?
I don't know.
That is
It's a good question.
$100,000 question.
Okay, so you've got basically bureaucrat hirelings working for public works. This is okay. meeting with the bureaucratic hirelings from from the rest of the cities within the jurisdiction,
Right.
and saying, "Well, I'll vote for your project if you vote for my project."
It could be happening. We don't know. We can't go.
Okay, so we're talking about.
But it's only $3.6 billion.
Don't worry about it.
So we're talking about a worthless 3-mile rail line in the middle of the street connecting Midtown with Old Sac and West Sac. Plus, what else? What other kind of boondoggles are built into this whole Measure B?
So the best boondoggle that people who don't understand transportation want is light rail to the airport.
Okay, now that sounds good on the surface.
It sounds great.
I mean, light rail to the, why not? I
Okay.
mean, I can
I
take the
have
bus,
to tell
but-
you my experience. I go to Chicago, I go to New York, JFK, I go to Frankfurt. I never rent a car. I take their rail systems, okay? And they're pretty good. But those are the largest, most active airports in the world with super high volume. Now we're recovering from the recession and we're starting to get people into Terminal B out there, which cost $1 billion. And so we think we're going to survive this financially. Why would a person hop on light rail in downtown Sacramento and take maybe an hour to get to the airport? Because it's going to stop in my neighborhood in Natomas and everywhere along the line, because that's the way it's designed, when they can take a bus directly from downtown to the airport, or they
Already.
can pull up their cell phone and catch Uber or Lyft directly to the airport and be there in 15 minutes at a lower cost. Like you said, it sounds good. I'm an engineer by training.
Okay.
Lots of things sound good.
You said at a lower cost. Would Uber be a lower cost
Oh,
than buying a subway or a light rail ticket?
If there are going to be a bunch of you, like 4 of you, you come to our convention center with your 3 best buddies, Uber is faster and cheaper.
Okay, but it would require 3 or 4 people in
It
the
would.
cab. Okay.
I take Uber from my neighborhood. It's $10 to the airport from Natomas.
Okay.
So it's fast, quick. I don't have to wait for an hour. Okay, headway on all of these transportations. It's a funny term that I have a tough time with, but it's the time between buses or light rail cars or other things, and also the time it's going to take to get there. And so most of these systems do not perform and do not deliver people in an appropriate amount of time to their destination. And as soon as you put rail in the ground, you've invested a ton of money in infrastructure, and it can't go anywhere.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I take the yellow bus from downtown.
Okay.
And it takes 40 minutes, maybe something like that, from downtown to the airport. And I'm happy. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
A couple $2-3 or whatever it costs. That makes more sense to me than driving and paying to park my car in the parking lot out there.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's fine. That bus is usually not full. It's usually maybe a third full most of the time. Runs hourly, and it's running on the freeway. It's running on capital expenditures that have already been spent many years ago. It goes up and down 5. That's a sunk cost that doesn't have to be duplicated. With light rail, you're incurring all of those capital costs for land acquisition, for putting down the steel, for all of the investments expenses necessary to put in a light rail corridor. That's before you start charging for it, and then you're going to have stops along the way in Natomas and wherever.
So even with Measure B at $3.6 billion plus, there is not enough money to do light rail to the airport.
How much, because it would cost more than that, more than the $3.6 billion just to do that?
You'd have to dedicate all the money to that, and I haven't looked carefully at the finances, but it looks like it would end up costing more.
Okay. More than is going to be raised in, was it?
In Measure B.
10 years?
In 30 years.
30 years. Okay.
30 years.
Yeah.
That's 30 years. You have to wait for enough money.
So they're promising airport transportation
Yes.
with absolutely no hope or even intention of ever delivering.
It will never happen. Yeah.
And, okay, is it in the brochure, Right to the Airport? Is that in here?
Yeah. I have to look.
It's in there to Natomas.
Yeah.
But there is, in Measure B, they can change the projects. Every 10 years, they can change the projects. So we're not guaranteed anything. You know, one thing that they're really promoting in these brochures is called Fix It First.
Yes.
Have you heard of Fix It First?
Okay, tell me what that is.
That is where the jurisdictions, the cities and the county, need to bring up their PCI, which is a pavement condition index, to 70%.
That means fill the potholes? Is that what you're...
Fill the potholes, repave, but it's only being sold for 5 years in this brochure. But at the same time, in Measure B, it says with a majority vote of the Board of Supervisors and the Board of STA, the Sacramento Transportation Authority, that can be changed at any time. And nobody's being told that. It's only in the actual ordinance, if you read it, that it can be changed. But what they're also saying, you know, road maintenance is what they're saying it's going to cover. That 60% of Measure B is going to go to road maintenance, and 75% of that is going to be used for Fix It First, which if you do the math, it comes out to about 45% of Measure B. And people are being told that it's 75% of Measure B, but it's 75% of 60% that's being allocated. And then 75% of the 25%, I think it is, that's going to RT is going to go to new buses in that. So it's kind of confusing the way they're selling it, and it sounds better than it is.
A simple question. We just got a few minutes left.
Yeah.
Is bus part of the whole thing, bus lines? Or is that something entirely different?
So bus is part of it, and maintenance of buses, and that's why Gillick has kicked in money, because they hope to sell buses.
There's a bus sales.
Yeah. So I think the point to make is everybody on this contribution list gets a piece of the action for their investment.
And there's lots of pieces of the action, and we'll talk about more of them on
Grab your
another show.
sign.
That's the show for this week on the TV, Channel 17, on the internet at www.accesssacramento.org, and on the air, 8 p.m. Thursday, noon Friday, 4 a.m. on Saturday.